Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you for coming along. Look, I know we're in England and everyone's very reserved here, but I really feel like I wanted to do something, a little meditation tonight to get started. But it's a bit hard because we've got a party going out the front. So I just had this idea, and one thing that working with Doreen Virtue has taught me is you always go with your feelings. So I'm going to freak you all out. And I'm actually going to go off camera for a minute. I don't know if you want to follow me. This might be really weird. It literally has just occurred to me now. But let's just give me a hand and then hold hands. Hold round. You pass your hand back. I know it is weird, especially for English people, even for Australians. So, you know, the easiest thing for us to do is, first of all, I'm going to call on the Archangel Michael and the Archangel Gabriel to be here. Michael being really the overseer of all the angels, who, as you'll discover in the book, doesn't get a sign. And Gabriel being my angel, which is Cancerian, but also the angel who deals with writers, of which I'm one, and also who's really good if you have to make a public speech. So you can remember Gabriel for that. And I just thought the easiest thing for us to do, just to kind of create the space, is we'll just do, if it's not too weird, you've all done yoga, 3 ohms. Okay? So if we just close our eyes, and I'll lead the way. Perfect, thanks guys. I wrote with Doreen Virtue, who's just like the most amazing. Oh, thank you. Who's the most wonderful person. She's the real deal. She's an amazing person to work with. We had some really interesting experiences along the way. Probably the most powerful of which was I used to call her once a week and we'd talk about the book. And one week I'd been asked by a friend to see someone who'd had a terrible tragedy happen in her life, which I won't go into. And I was a bit freaked out because I was being looked to as this sort of expert kind of healer person. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm as in touch with my healing abilities as I can be, but, you know, like I don't know, like Doreen's just sort of up there somehow. And I said to her, I don't know what to do, Doreen. You know, I would never ask you usually, because I tried to keep it professional on the phone and stuff. And she said, oh, Yasmin, you know, and I got a pen and she just gave me like these 10 things to say to this girl. And I swear to God, and it's actually, this now got a happy ending as well. She'd lost a child and in terrible circumstances. And she told me these things to say to her. And I went round there and I looked after her a bit as much as I could with her chart and her cards and so on. And then I said, listen, I've got some stuff from Doreen. And I read it to her and it just broke her in two. It absolutely touched her. And it started a real journey for her, and she ended up going to India. And anyway, I've just found out she's pregnant to someone else and getting married. So I found that on an Instagram because I was like, oh my God, she's pregnant. And I mean, that's Doreen, and I love Doreen. So, you know, I wish she was here tonight, and maybe she'll see the video. So hi, Doreen, if you see the video. So basically what I thought I'd do tonight is give you an idea, one, of how I understand angels, and then quickly talk about the star signs, because that's the crux of it. Did everyone go to the site and do their chart? Yeah. Great. Well, then you have it. It's okay. All you have to do is go to angelology101.com and you put in your time, date and place of birth, and it basically will tell you what your sun is, your moon, your Venus, your Mars, so then the whole book will make sense. And it's very easy, but for tonight's purposes, it's fine if you just know your sun sign, which is your star sign. So just to talk a little bit, because I'm really an astrologer, and the whole angel thing has really kind of taken over my life a bit in the last 12 months. It's been really interesting, and I used to have this strong feeling not to write about angels. And I even wrote about on my website the fact that every time I talked about angels, I felt like I shouldn't. And I didn't understand that, but I believe in following my feelings. So I actually believe it was because, so I didn't sort of get into bad angel habits until I could have one of the best teachers in the world, which is Doreen, to work with. But, you know, I do find the concept of angels, you know, a little bit, well, now I don't, but initially I did as we started talking about, let's do this book. And I was raised a Catholic. Obviously there are angels in Catholicism. Actually there are angels in Islam, there are angels in Hinduism, there are angels in Judaism. There's basically angels in all the religions. And the way I see angels, and this is really a considered opinion after probably 3 years of thinking about this quite hard, and reading various books, some of which are probably on sale in this shop and some of which are self-published, so hopefully one day they'll make it onto the shelves, but it's sort of people who are kind of out there writing a bit about this stuff as well. But you know, we live in the third dimension. I believe astrology works in the third dimension. And then when we meditate, for example, we go to the fourth and higher dimensions. Certain places I've been on the planet, like a particular ashram in India, I believe you are mainly up in higher dimensions, and the angels are in higher dimension. Energy, angelic energy, which we have given names to. Okay? Now I'll quickly do the list of the angels, but it's all in here and it's on my site. And actually, if you come back to angelology101.com in a week, I'm actually going to add it so that when you print your chart out, you'll actually get the name of the angel as well. Just Aries, the archangel is Ariel. Okay? Taurus, the archangel is Shamuel, which is, I probably could tell you a little. No, I don't think we've got time tonight, so I'll just go through them. But in the book, if you grab the book, each chapter, which was a very last-minute inclusion, but people love it, has a list of all the things that each angel takes care of. So Gemini, for example, is Archangel Zadkiel. So we've got things like when you need to forgive someone, when you need to remember someone's name, when you need confidence. It's really good, but because we've got a short time, we want to take questions. I won't go through them all, but it's nice just to know the name, and then you can Google the name and you know, download a picture. You can talk to the angel. Cancer is Gabriel. Leo is Raziel, who, by the way, has a rainbow-coloured aura, so very Leo kind of thing. Virgo is Metatron, who's the shapeshifter and the time shifter. So apparently, according to Doreen, and I have tried it, and I can't say it hasn't worked, but it seems unreal, but you bend time. Metatron bends time. So if you're running late, you speak to Metatron and say, come on, let me get there on time, even though I'm actually 5 minutes late. Very handy angel to have. Libra is the angel of beauty, Jophiel, who's on the cover, and very gorgeous. And she's a love angel, so in general, if you're having a love problem and you can't remember who your personal love angel is, you can just speak to Jophiel. And then we've got Scorpio, and that's Jeremiel. Jeremiel is the angel who, actually, when you pass over, you know how all the people who have near-death experiences, they tell you that their life flashed before their eyes and they did a life review? Well, that's Archangel Jeremiel, and he actually can help us do that now. So if you are feeling out of balance, if you know you need to see what's going on in your life, Jeremiel. Sagittarius is Archangel Raguel. And Raguel particularly is a very sociable angel like Sagittarians. I should have got everyone to put up their hands. Usually I do that. I'm just a little bit thrown because I thought we were going to be here for an hour and we've got half an hour, so I feel like we're going to... I know, but it's my fault. I think I told everyone it was an hour. It was obviously half an hour. Sorry about that. That's okay. Okay, now who's Capricorn? Any Capricorns? Okay, this was the only angel Doreen and I didn't agree on. And I tried and I tried and I tried to convince her, but you know, she actually is Capricorn rising and she's Taurian, so they will not be moved. And also, you know, she knows her stuff. And actually I've come to agree with her opinion on this, but it's Archangel Azrael, who is the angel of death. I know, but she said, you know what, Yasmin, you have to change the way you see Azrael. So for the year or so I've been thinking about Azrael. You know, one of the things, a really beautiful thing I read was, you know, who would God give to humans when they have to deal with the most difficult time? The sweetest angel. So Azrael actually turns out to be a very sweet angel who can help us with transitions. Aquarius, we have the Archangel Uriel, very good for anyone who is struggling with technology as well, by the way. And Pisces, that's you, Pisces, is a beautiful angel, Sandalphon. So if you meditate, if you are lacking inner peace, if you want to work on your psychic abilities, Sandalphon's brilliant. Sandalphon's actually really good as well. A really easy thing to remember about Sandalphon is that if you ask the Sandalphon for help, his answers will come to you via music. So just say, for example, if you... the example I always think of is my father passed away about 5 years ago, and so were I to want to know if my dad was around, which I actually have done, but I don't think I've ever asked Sandalphon, funnily enough. I think I stopped. I think I sort of kept asking my dad for signs in the first 2 or 3 years after he passed away, and now I'm a bit more, I know he's around. But so you'd expect to hear, I'd expect to hear one of his favourite songs, whatever that was, which was Mario Lanza, that Italian guy. So that's how Sandalphon communicates. So basically what you need to understand, okay, is that in your birth chart, you have the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. That's as far as we've gone in the book. And basically your birth chart, just so you understand it, is the moment that you were born, okay? So if somebody lay down on the grass just as you were being born, it's pretty much like a photo of the heavens. So you've got, you might have the Sun there, Mercury there, Venus there, and so on. So that's how you get the birth chart. And now what we've done is we've married the energies. And so when you know the angels that rule your chart, you know who to ask for help in certain situations. I think I'm going to leave it there. I feel like I'd like to get some questions. Oh good, people have got questions. Hello, Sylvia.
Yes.
I recognise her face from Facebook. Never met her. Hi.
Yes.
Now, I think, it kind of depends on your personal chart. And because your Saturn is in Leo, I would say talk to Raziel. So Raziel will help bring you confidence in your search for career. But again, as a general rule, it depends. I mean, if you know a bit about astrology, you can just race ahead with this straight away. If you know nothing about astrology, then it takes a bit of learning. But otherwise, you can just talk to Azrael, who's the Saturn angel, full stop, for everybody, and that would help you. But you in particular, Raziel. Sign?
I think, I don't know if it's Scorpio, but I'm not 100%.
Okay, do you know your Venus? Okay, so what you have to do, what's your name? Anne. So Anna. So all you have to do, Anna, is go to angelastrology101.com, cast your chart, and then look at your Venus, okay? Because Venus is about love. And then you'll find out your love, the ruler of your love planet. But again, as a general rule, Jophiel. Like, Jophiel is particularly great for women because she's about love and beauty and femininity. So anytime you've got a love issue, I mean, in a way, all the angels are good for everything in a kind of a funny way. But it is, if you particularly resonate with one angel rather than another angel, for example, your Venus angel, then, when you have love issues, talk to that angel. I wish I could help you. I mean, I could actually do it.
Manifesting.
Well, yeah, well, the thing is, I was saying that the angels are in another dimension. And I don't know if you've heard people say, angels can be everywhere all at once. And you don't, just because Archangel Michael might be helping us here tonight, doesn't mean he's not over in New York helping someone else and, a million other places. Because if you think about it, it's energy, it's angelic energy, which we have given a name and a form to. And they can just be everywhere. And I truly believe that they are everywhere. And I actually now am starting to see little flickers of light. Does anyone else see the little flickers of light? Yeah. And what Doreen has told me is that's when you're seeing angels, when you're starting to see them. I've yet to see, I keep being interviewed. I've done about probably 20 interviews for this book, and they all go, have you seen an angel? I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I haven't. I wish I could say I have. But now, where was I the other day? I wish I could remember, but I was somewhere, and this guy said that he had not only seen an angel, but like seen a room full of angels. And he was like, one of those guys that looks like he would never ever believe in angels, one of those sort of, like, he wasn't a truck driver, that's the stereotype, but someone, I actually can't remember where it was now, I don't even remember what country I was in, to be honest. But I remember him saying, and there were smaller angels and there were bigger angels and there were some really big angels. I don't know where he was, and he just, like, he had seen them, he had fully seen them, he'd seen them, and they looked like they had wings and so on. Now, that's one way that angels manifest. Do they look the same to all different people of different cultures? Nikki's shaking her head, no. Yeah. Like, not a real one. I'd like to see a fully formed one. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be amazing? So, maybe someday. The question is, if someone's really driving you crazy, can you ask, and their angel, can you ask their angel to please sort them out? Which is a very good, fair question. So before I did this book and got very clear on what the angels do for what sign and so on, I used to just appeal to all the angels, and now I like to appeal to particular angels just because I don't know, I just like it, and I'm just that sort of person. I like to do that. But before that, what I used to do was I would just say angels please. And so the concept is, and this does work as well, is you ask it sounds funny, it's like my people talk to their people, but it's like you ask your angels to talk to their angels.
Okay, so for example, I would say to channel your
Would definitely do that, because and there is this thing that the angels can only intervene if we allow them to. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I know it can work. It can work. It's the sort of thing that you would do if you were having problems with the neighbours, and rather than being aggressive or trying to sort it out, you can do it. It is a strange. I mean, I'm a bit worried saying this now because I know Doreen might watch it, but I find angels quite an unusual concept. It's taken me a good year or two to really start to understand more. Because I'm someone who just needs to have a kind of a strong understanding of something, and I used to think, well, where are they? It's a bit like goddesses. I absolutely am fascinated by goddesses as well, and for ages I thought, but where are these goddesses? Like, but I understand now, they're just not in this dimension. But you can feel them when you want to, when you try. Yes. This is a question from Sylvia, and she's asked me this on Facebook maybe 15 times. And I always give the same answer. And I'm going to write a book about it one day, I am. Do the angels contradict the law of attraction? And the answer is no, they don't. They all work together. And also, Sylvia and other people have asked me, does astrology contradict the law of attraction? And again, the answer is no. Now, this is my thinking on it. And I don't know if anybody saw that post I did about Jonathan Kaner yesterday. Yeah. And he was the one who really helped me with this. I met Jonathan, 10, 15 years ago, and he sort of has really helped me and mentored me in a funny kind of way. And actually he's given me a quote for the back of this, for the English edition. I think we've got the American one here for some reason. But so he wrote a book called Cosmic Ordering, which is basically about the law of attraction. It's about, if you can see it, it will come. And I mean, I could talk for hours on the law of attraction. I just think the law of attraction is the most amazing thing, and I can highly recommend for anyone who's interested in it to get I'm sure they have them here, get the Law of Attraction CD from Jerry and Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks. So I had the book. I was actually sent the book in my role as a journalist, and I just was like, yeah, I've read all this before. I've written it even myself, But then I started putting the CD in when I was driving long distances. It was in Australia, so, you do drive a few more long distances there maybe. But I just put it in, and I would honestly go into a slightly altered state. And I'm not kidding you, my husband, who will turn up here later, who's French and does not believe in anything, he got it. He really, really got it. It's so true. So then you go, okay, well, if the law of attraction is obviously true, you know, that's something you can't almost deny. Like, in a way, it's almost easier to understand than angels because you see it in your own life so much, and you see it in other people's lives. So then I thought, well, how does it work with astrology was my first question. So eventually Jonathan Kaner was in Sydney and for a day, and I basically thought, I've got to ask Jonathan. And so, because he's a really, really wise man. And so I actually said, what about if I give you a lift to the airport so we can have a bit of a chat? And he's like, okay. And so his reply was, and again, it comes back to dimensions. Astrology works in the third dimension, okay? Can you get that it works in the third dimension? It makes total sense because we're talking about planets that are in the third dimension. It actually makes complete sense. The law of attraction is in the fourth dimension, okay? So it's your subconscious or your superconscious or something. It's not your mind that you use to find a seat on the tube at peak hour. It's that other part of you that you can't even really explain. It's the part of you that when you're falling asleep or when you're asleep or when you meditate or even when you're doing yoga. So it's not third dimensional. And angels are not third dimensional. So, you know, so like for example, with astrology, don't let anyone ever freak you out. It's not, you're never doomed in astrology. You always have possibilities in your chart. And the law of attraction and angels and I believe goddesses and our guides are all there to help us make the most of our chart that was the picture that was up in the sky the moment we were born. And just to kind of backtrack a bit, and I'm sorry this has all been a bit higgledy-piggledy tonight, but I believe that where the planets are it creates like a blueprint. So if you imagine that before you're born, you know that you have certain issues to deal with, that you're going to come down here to deal with those particular issues during your time on Earth in this incarnation. So, so basically, I don't think you're doomed ever by your chart. No matter what is in your chart, you always have a chance to make the best of it. And the people who are going to struggle the most are the ones who stay in the third dimension and only read their horoscope, especially if they don't read uplifting horoscopes and expect bad things to happen, because the law of attraction is still going to function. And as far as the angels are concerned, the angels are on tap, but as we've said, in theory aren't allowed to help unless we ask them to help. So, yes? Born on the cusp question. I'll do that, and I'll also do the what happens if you were born by cesarean question, which comes up a lot as well. So, if you're born on the cusp, you are one sign or the other.
Okay.
You just need to know your time of birth. In some rare cases, if you don't know your time of birth, then you can't say exactly which sign you are. But basically the sun, what it is the sun moves into the different sign on the same day of the year, give or take 2 days every year. So, you know, if you were born on the 21st of November, you might be a Scorpio or you might be a Sag. But that's when, even if you just know your date of birth, you can find out which you are. And you're not a bit of one and a bit of the other. You are one or the other.
Okay.
So it's worth finding that out.
I got it.
And
yeah.
it's usually quite obvious. What's your between what and what? Or is it you?
Capricorn and Aquarius.
Okay.
I think I'm Aquarius.
All right, yeah. And I mean, I had a boyfriend 20 years ago who thought he was a Scorpio. I think he quite wanted to be a Scorpio. And as soon as I really got into astrology, I thought, he's not. He's a Sagittarius. And he was Sagittarius. Okay, and now the caesarean question for anyone who's born by a caesarean or had a child by a caesarean. People often say, you know, oh, my child came 10 days early, or my child came 10 days late, or he was born by caesarean, or whatever. Okay, so I have thought about this long and hard, and I honestly think that this is almost certainly correct, but it is my opinion. I believe, as I said, the chart that we get is like a map of our challenges and opportunities for this incarnation on this planet. So we are born at the exact right time. And that includes, you know, a planned caesarean, an emergency caesarean, or whatever. That's what I think. That's my opinion. Anyone else? How did we decide which angel went with which star sign? Very good question, and one I've usually covered in every talk I've done, but because I was rushing. So what we did was, what happened was, I was very friendly, in a very professional way, with a fantastic guy called Leon Naxon, who runs Hay House, the publishers in Australia. We knew each other because I was a journalist and he knew I was on the spiritual path, and so he'd invite me to all these events and I'd go along and all that. Anyway, one day I was reading a book and I found all these correlations between angels and astrology, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. Okay, I didn't even know about that, but it was all Kabbalah, which I haven't really pursued as yet. I actually did Kabbalah 1 at the centre here in London, but then I couldn't do Kabbalah 2. I might yet do it, and I'd be quite interested to see. So I didn't really learn that much, but I learned there was an association. I was like, whoa, okay, that's interesting. And I was interested in angels. I was always sort of wanting to write about them, but holding back. Anyway, so one day I said to Leon that I discovered this connection, and he said, and I said I'd love to write a book about it because I thought that'd be a great excuse to kind of research it at length. And he said, if I was going to do that, I would have to do it with Doreen Virtue. I'm like, gee whiz, okay, if you insist. So he put us in touch, and Doreen wrote back and said, well, I'd like to do that, but I need to know which angels Yasmin thinks go with which star sign. And I actually thought she was testing me. I don't know, I just thought, oh, she's obviously wondering, you know, if we're on the same page and if we're aligned and all that. And I was like, oh, okay. So what I did was I thought about it for about a month, thinking, oh my God, this is such an amazing opportunity, but how am I going to work out which angel goes with what star sign? Because I knew really very little about angels. And so after about a month, I sat down with pen and paper and I wrote all the names of the angels and all the names of the star signs. And I just meditated with the intention of finding out what I thought based on what I knew and what I felt. And I did, you know, when you draw a line, you know, you connect them up like that. So I did that, and then I sent it to Doreen, and she wrote back and said, oh, that's marvellous, because I had 9 out of 12 the same as her, which is pretty amazing, especially since I had given... I had included Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael, and she didn't include them at all because she says they kind of oversee the whole picture. So in fact, we only had one different, in a way, kind of in a funny way. And anyway, it turned out that she wasn't testing me. It's that she had actually written about it in the past, and there are long histories of associations of which angel goes with which star sign, which I have since read, but I didn't know about at the time. So she was drawing on the ancient wisdom, 7 AD in Persia, getting the same information that I got in 2012 in Bondi and Sydney. You know, how did I get all those angels? I mean, when you think about it, that's basically it, and that actually makes it even more exciting that it happened in a funny way. But does that make sense? I think that's probably what it is. I mean, assuming, you know, we talked about people seeing angels, I suppose there have been angels making themselves known, and I don't know. How did I know? I don't know how I knew.
That's what I asked.
Yeah. And I think Doreen's she's Capricorn rising, as I said, she's very scholarly. So she would have partly intuited it, I suppose, like I did. But I also think with her, she probably researched it as well, because she's very thorough and very research oriented. She's kind of, you know, she's a real teacher. But yeah, I think that's exciting to think that I found it out the same way, because it didn't feel like that. I was sitting on, you know, the floor of the spare room with a piece of paper. It doesn't feel that mystical, but kind of was mystical in a way. Hang on, Sylvia, there's a question up here. Say I don't know. I just know, I mean, I was nervous because I thought this is my big chance to do this. And then I meditated, so I wouldn't have been nervous, I suppose, while meditating. And I literally just drew the lines. And I barely knew anything about them. I mean, I'd actually downloaded all Doreen's podcasts about the angels, but in the end, I just felt like I wasn't supposed to listen to them. It's hard to say, and I still don't know what that was about, but maybe it was about me not just trying to wrote about them, like, okay, this angel, you know, like learning a science project or something. It was almost like maybe it was happened organically, which is the way it's happened for me. And now, you know, I know what I know about them because of the last 2 years, not some kind of like a weekend thing I did where I learned everything off by heart. Into astrology. Apparently I was into it when I was a kid at school. And all my friends, actually at our wedding, talked about how I used to walk around the schoolyard with an astrology book going, oh, when were you born, and all this. And then I sort of just went into journalism, and I didn't really think that much more about it. And then basically what happened was this girl that I knew, who's an astrologer and a writer, was clearing out her house. She was actually feng shuiing her work shed, and she gave me 4 milk crates worth of astrology books. And she's a very good astrologer, and they were the best astrology books in the world. So basically, a complete library of the best astrology books in the world manifested themselves in my house. And about 6 weeks later, she said, have you been reading the books? I said, yeah, I had a little look, but I don't know how to do astrology. She said, oh, right. So she then got an ephemeris, and she, you know, you can buy them here, I'm sure, a little Raphael's ephemeris. It costs like £4-5 or something, or they used to. Now it's all digital, but anyway. But Jonathan Cainer carries one at all times, and it just tells you where all the planets are. She said, no, you just look at where the planets are like this, and then you put them against your chart. And I'm like, oh my God. So then I became utterly obsessed, literally like obsessed. And I was freelance journalist at the time, and I was literally working 4, 5, 6 hours a day on astrology, which if anyone who works for themselves, you can't really do that, because you've got to make a living. You're not going to get paid for sitting at your desk reading about astrology. So eventually, this girlfriend of mine, KJ, came over, and I said, look, I don't know, I think I'm obsessed with this. And I must say, I had a feeling I was remembering as well. You know how they say sometimes you don't learn, you remember? I really had a feeling I was remembering. And so KJ and I decided that we would take these jolly astrology books and we would put them in the garage where they belong. So we pulled them all off the shelf, put them in milk crates, and put them in the garage. And literally about half an hour later, my flatmate of the time, who was French, I've told this story so many times, I feel like it's a cliche now, but he came with these 4 crates of astrology books in both hands and plonked them in the middle of the living room and said, I found these in the garage. I think they are yours. I'm like, oh my God. And KJ is very attuned as well. So we both looked at each other and we knew that I was therefore meant to, you know, not stop. So then I went into it in earnest, and I bought the Solar Fire astrology software, which is it's about $500, so it was a bit of an investment, and then it all just went from there, and I studied it for years, and then finally somebody asked me to write a comment, could you go into a meditative state, can you try dowsing? And I'm sure you can. However, my traditional suggestion under these circumstances is, number 1, you can see what's called a rectification astrologer, and what they do is they get your whole life story. So you have to have had quite a few life events, getting married, having a child, buying a house, getting your first big job, you know, including bad things. I won't go into those bad things that can happen, and using that, they can work out when you were born, in theory. It's called rectification. It's a specialist art, and the best person in the world is said to be a woman called Lee Lehman in the States, which is Lehman. And the other way to do it, which I would also think would be great, would be to go to a kinesiologist. You know about kinesiology, where they tap you, they strong for yes, weak for no sort of thing? And because on some level your body knows when you were born, whether it's just because the nurse knew or the doctors knew, or somehow you know. And so what I always say to people when this question comes up, because it does come up a lot, is ideally do both. But don't tell one what the other said, and see if you get, you know, if you get something around the same time. But let me just say one other thing. You know, actually it was on Jonathan Cainer's site today, I think, they were talking about knowing your birth time. And I mean, I've always say to people, it's only been in the last few hundred years that people know what time they were born, and now everyone's so obsessed with what time they were born. And, you know, astrologers like, oh, well, I can't read for you if I don't know what time you were born. You know, I even say that sometimes, oh, I can't give you that much information if I don't know the birth time, because we're taught like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, clocks and watches have not been around for that long, and astrology's been around for 2,500 years. So, you know, don't worry about it too much. There's a mother who had a 10 days early emergency Caesar. You know, there's enough stress on mothers to have a perfect birth out there, so I wouldn't necessarily go there. However, on some level it probably is reflected in the chart, but it may well be more in the mother's chart than the child's chart. Yeah, but there's a lot of, I mean, I don't, have you got children as yet?
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about it.
Perfect birth, and, you know, no, don't have an epidural, God forbid, don't have a Caesar, don't, you know, you've got to breathe through it, it's all, you know, like the Americans want you to have an orgasmic birth. It's like, right, I mean, really. So I'm really sensitive to that because I had a difficult birth, and I always say I'm rubbish at giving birth, but I'm good mother. So, yeah. And on that note, my son would like to close the proceedings. Is he allowed to?
Thank you all for coming, for you. And I hope you enjoyed my mum or Yasmin Boland's book launch.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.